Make yourself comfortable so you don't feel like you have to watch it. And don't those connect to like...
He's a tripod. Actually, he's getting the tripod.
Perfect, so we can pause. Because I don't want you to
that
be
I'm
like,
not
I didn't hear things.
So, God, I'm covering.
It's kind of like a paparazzi thing.
Document. And are you going to the
I am,
retreat?
yes.
So you could
So also in the
remind
room
everyone to
is
document there.
Nicole,
Yeah.
David, Frank, and John.
We're in John's living room.
We're in John's living room.
Okay, let's see. If you can pull this up so it's here. Oh, it is here.
Yep.
Good. Okay. And then I'll have you do this so I focus up here. Will you zoom in on the top?
On this?
Yeah, top 2, 3, these areas. Okay. What Julie came out of when she and Andrew put their heads together post everybody's presentation was between now and when the retreat opportunity happens, it'd be great to do a little bit of thinking about synthesis. There's not enough time between Friday and Monday to do a complete synthesis. So we put our target energies in the places they thought would be most important, which are the bookends. Kind of beginning to take a look at, and what I did is I took everybody's drafts and I laid them all out in their different formats and just looked across at the opportunity statements, if there were any, at the problem statements, if there were any. Different groups took different approaches to those, and start to synthesize what are we hearing across them. I think this is one pass. I don't think this is the final pass. All of this is work in progress right now, so take this as a place to jump off of, to tweak, to simplify further. But I thought it would be powerful if we had both. If we had both opportunity, which is sort of our doing, we came up with that during the EDC meeting, and if we have problem statement, which is also what often is done in logic models. So if we're taking the asset-based approach to this work, then we're probably going to want opportunity first, I think. Title it however you want. Right now, a lot of the thinking I did and a lot of the work I did over the weekend was try to think about what does this look like if we really take all the ideas and strategies and different pieces and then put the student right in the center and say, so what for the learner? So what for the learner who may not be a student? So what for the student who's a non-traditional student or hasn't been well served? So what would all this be helpful for? And using that so what lens is where I started doing some of that work that I'm passing back to you at by 10 tomorrow. So, if you can make that bigger, John, I don't be able to see it.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's better. And I have poor eyes, so you let me know if you need it any bigger too, because I don't want you squinting.
It's helpful if it's slightly larger.
Okay, a little larger is even better then. There are not a lot of parts to this, which is the good thing. You know, we can be like, let's think about this, let's think about that, let's think about this. Yes, good. Okay, so opportunity. What is the opportunity? Why would we do this reform? Why now? The opportunity is to ensure each of our learners gains what they need to know to thrive in work and life in our changing society. So embedded in that is the whole idea of the skill set and the curriculum and the instruction, and that why do we do that anyway? We do that so that we can work and feed ourselves and our children. We do that so that we can be educated citizens and we can participate and make our society what we want to be. We do that so we can pursue happiness. This is something that our country values, you know, that we care about. Why do we have a school system? Because we believe that we can help before there was a school system, this just sort of happened in people's homes and backyards and with the different sorts of skill sets that they could translate to their children. We did this privately, but we believed that one of the reasons of the school system might be to help prepare the learner for the work and the life ahead that we imagine is part of being an adult in our society. So we want to ensure that each and every learner that comes through and that has the opportunity to learn in Burlington and Winooski gets what they need to do that. So it isn't just, did they get what we're offering, it's, did they do that? Did they get to that place of being able to work and live, even as the playing field changes? We know what that's like in education, where today this seemed really relevant. Slide rule is no longer quite as relevant as it used to be, and to the extent that we're using graphing calculators. How I learned how to do some of my statistics is becoming less and less relevant as we continue to change and understand, and the body of knowledge and what we know changes. So it's that idea of the learner's going to get it. They want to not just barely make it. We want them to do well. We want them to be who they want to be in work and life and changing society. So I think the key ideas from this, and you guys can wordsmith it any way you want, but is that it's each of our learners, and they're going to thrive in work and life, and that the playing field changes.
The language that you're using now, is this your language that you've synthesized?
Yeah,
okay.
that's like,
Good.
take some of this, some of that,
Thank you.
put it together, and shift it around,
Yep.
and then I'm going to pass it back to you, and
Yep.
you guys keep doing that. I think
Good.
the closer we get to simple, the more we can tell this story. So that's one really big idea. Another opportunity, which maybe isn't as big, but it really is about what Nellie Mae is looking for. And it'll be for you to think about, do we want to just fold that in or not? Is to structure a dynamic education system, or in this case, two of them, to structure dynamic education systems to support each learner's journey, with resources from home, school, community, and because this is a global game we're playing, and beyond. It's not just, can I live in Burlington, Winooski when I grow up? No, maybe not. Maybe that's not what you want to do. Maybe you want to live in Thailand. Are you going to be ready? How are we going to prepare you so that you can run a company that runs everywhere is one of the questions. So here I think the key idea is an opportunity on our plate is to look at what's working, to look at what we've got, to look at the resources, to look at the wonderful mixed demographics of these places. I think that's a strength that we have, is it's socioeconomically diverse in both communities, it's ethnically and internationally diverse, and it's diverse in such a way that you can actually pull on the assets of all those subgroups of populations. It's not tilted so much that you're suddenly sunk because it's unbalanced and you can't talk about it. You've got enough great ways of looking at diversity that I think that's part of why you got the planning grant. Because you're a microcosm that hasn't had so much flight, that it's a whole different game. I think it's because there's a willingness to work across systems, which is unusual. I think that's part of the power of what we're offering to Nellie Mae, who wants to change the world. Well, we're a small bit of world right here, and we get along enough that we could do this. And I think that's part of what you can sell to them. So the concept here is dynamic, I think. That we're going from what we've had, which is two different school systems serving a population that jumps over the hill quite frequently, but not always. That iterates, it changes. We have changes that come from federal legislation, we have changes that come from state, we have changes that come from within. Now we're changing the curriculum, now the Common Core is coming on. It does change, but I'd hesitate to say that it's dynamic and responsive and individualized. I think it changes in a group way. It changes like this. It's not easy, and nothing is easy, but we haven't structured our education systems in such a way that we can respond quickly to the innovations that are defining our world. And so part of our opportunity is structuring a dynamic education system. So it's dynamic for the changing world, and it's dynamic to each individual learner. That's hard too. We've based it on, at one point, bell curves, and then the next point, sort of, can we get to enough proficiency that we're feeling like we're succeeding, and we're doing it, and we're looking at it in groups. It helps to look at groups to make sense of things, but when we drill down, we haven't gotten there yet, where each learner is not yet served by this school system piece in the way that we'd like. We know where the gaps are. That's where your pilot is really looking. You're looking at the places where we haven't succeeded as well as we'd like. And then, because we're thinking about this being dynamic, and we're thinking about it being an education system, not a school system, we're talking about beginning to bust out a little bit of where we think learning should happen. Because it happens everywhere anyway, you know, especially these days, and especially for young people, because they're much more digital savvy than the system. And you can get information in many different ways and use it. It's not always quality information. It's not always sequential. It's not always applied in the way we might like it. But information is really blasting out and much more available than when I was young. And much, much more available than when we structured the systems to help support being able to learn what you need to know so you can thrive and work in life. So now we're going to start to articulate, and if we can build a system that actually thinks about and honors and pulls upon the learning that goes on at home, in school, and community, and in my case I added, and beyond, so that we're not thinking too parochially in the way that we want to prepare our learners in our communities for the very big globe that we live in, which becomes smaller every generation. And we should know that. In Burlington-Winooski, we have people who have reams of experience with the difference of this world. And so that's an asset. That can help us design a better, globally innovative, dynamic education system. So we can flip that idea of it's all about challenge, baby. It's really also about opportunity. What we can learn from Sudan, what we can learn from Laos, what we can learn from Burma, in the people who are here, to imagine how do we structure something that prepares someone for this global village. So these are two areas. One, focused on the learner. Two, focused on the education system. And then the third, in terms of opportunity, it has to do with this value that we're trying to model, trying to instill within what we create for this education system. And it's the idea that we have the opportunity to model and get to the point of practicing lifelong learning in our communities. So moving to the idea of learner, away from the concept of student who which really only includes everybody who shows up. Those folks who stop showing up no longer get that title. And so how do we create a value where you're learning not just through high school, but beyond? And that's that transition piece that you're working on. That's also the seamlessness from how do you look backwards to middle school and look forwards to where are we going. So the idea that we can, with the efforts on the school system and its interrelationship with others, begin to really model and build on people's curiosity and make information and knowledge building a way of life to the extent that it isn't already. It is.